Let's talk about a concept called the iceberg effect. Because when we look at psychology, psychology really is not about what's the 1%. Because when we look at an iceberg, oftentimes what we see is 1% of the iceberg, okay? But the dangerous part of the iceberg isn't the 1% that we see, okay? It's the 99% that we don't see. And when we look at a psychology or a mindset, the chances are most of what you see isn't the dangerous part of your psychology. It isn't part of the psychology that's necessarily preventing you, although it has an impact. The part of your psychology that in most cases is affecting you the most is the stuff that you're not seeing and the stuff that you're not hearing. So when we look at the brain, we need to understand this brain is this incredible bio-supercomputer. It is the most potent, powerful supercomputer that the world has ever seen. Computer science has been trying to replicate it since the 50s and 60s, and they still haven't got it there yet. The human brain processes 16 trillion bits of information every 1 second. That's enormous processing power. They thought it was 400 billion, and then the latest research came out about 4 years ago. They said, no, we actually now believe that it's 16 trillion bits of information every 1 second. But here's the part that is going to freak some of you out a little bit. The average human being is only conscious of 2,000 bits of that information. That's a huge level of unconsciousness. So when we talk about psychology, the goal with psychology is to bring whatever is down here up to the surface. Because it's not until we bring it into our awareness that we can actually fundamentally start to make some significant shifts. You can significantly shift to psychology without necessarily going down here, but it requires more work up here. So the goal with psychology is to develop a consciousness greater than what you had the day before so that you can become aware of the stuff that's playing up here. Because the stuff that you play up here, the songs, the routines, the games you play up here is actually what has programmed what's going on down here. See, we program consciously for our subconscious to work. Now, there are certain aspects of our subconscious that are just automated, okay? Automation is a great thing in business, but also in biology, because it would really suck if you had to sit there and go, okay, heartbeat, 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 okay? So there are certain functions that just run completely unconsciously. Okay, biologically. But there are certain psychological functions that run unconsciously that were programmed very consciously. They were programmed through what you observed. They were programmed through what you were told. They were programmed through what you interpreted as being right or wrong on a regular and frequent basis. Now, if you take this information that you're seeing and you have it exposed, demonstrated, repeated on a repetitious basis with such a frequency, it fundamentally starts to seep into the unconscious, and then the unconscious puts it onto autopilot so that you can free up the rest of the brain to focus on other conscious behaviors. See, the brain, the conscious brain, is a cognitive miser. It wants to conserve as much energy as humanly possible. It hates expending energy, and it sees anything that requires an extended expenditure of energy as a threat. And that's why many people don't want to change. They don't want to change because change requires a lot of thought. A lot of thought, but it's like, fuck, too hard, I'll do it tomorrow. Okay? And when the brain feels threatened, we only basically have two biological responses: to either move forward or to move away. To pursue opportunity, to survive, or to run away from threat that could potentially end us. And the brain actually looks, in some cases, at the expenditure of energy as a threat. And as a result, it puts a lot of processes that are programmed up here, down here, so it doesn't have to think about them. We call these habits. Most of you have, all of you I should say, have what I refer to as psychological habits that are deeply unconscious, that produce what we refer to as your behavior that you see on an everyday basis. Who here sometimes observes themselves either during a behavior or after a behavior, and you literally have sat back and gone, why the fuck do I do that? Because you were programmed. Because here's the cool part. We are a bio-supercomputer. Biological super. How do you get a computer to do what it is that you want it to do? You program it. Every single one of you has been programmed to produce those behaviors. But most of you have forgotten where and when that programming was done. You're just now conscious of the observation when the behaviors take place, and you sometimes sit there and go, well, where did that come from? It came from your programming. And so the question now that I'm now asking you is, at what point do you want to turn the lights on? Because this is what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting we start turning the lights on and shining a light on what's up here and what's down here so we can start to better understand ourselves.